Okay.
I'll probably call you later.
Alright, cool. I'm about to go to church anyway and get off of this live.
This is one of those moments where the internet goes quiet for half a second, then completely loses its mind. A clip starts circulating, timelines freeze, group chats explode, and suddenly everyone is asking the same uncomfortable question. At the same time, why does this look wrong? Why does this feel worse? And why does nobody seem to be stepping in? The footage doesn't come with a warning label, just a gut punch, and by the time you realize what you're watching, the comments are already on fire. People aren't arguing about outfits, tattoos, or relationship drama anymore. They're arguing about a child. That's when things shift from messy reality TV energy into full-blown emergency mode. Fans swear they saw choking. Critics swear they heard gasping. Others claim it's being exaggerated, slowed down, clipped out of context, and turned into internet hysteria for clicks. But here's the problem. When a clip makes grown adults stop joking, stop trolling, and start typing "call a doctor" in all caps, you've crossed into dangerous territory. This is the kind of controversy that makes the Kardashians look like a quiet book club. One leaked moment, one shaky video, and suddenly ChriseanRock isn't trending for chaos or clout. She's trending because people think something is seriously wrong, and the internet is demanding answers she never planned to give. T didn't come with a press release, a warning, or even a caption explaining what people were about to see. It just appeared, quietly at first, like a spark landing on dry grass. A clip starts circulating, passed around in DMs before it ever hits the public timeline, and the first people who see it don't even know how to react. Some pause it immediately, some replay it, some exit the app and come back, hoping their eyes were lying to them, because what they think they're seeing doesn't feel like entertainment anymore. It feels like something you shouldn't be watching at all. The footage, according to viewers, shows ChriseanRock's son in visible distress. People swear they hear choking sounds. Others claim they see labored breathing. A few insist it's nothing more than a baby coughing. Normal, harmless. Blown out of proportion by an internet addicted to panic. But here's where the tension really begins. The comments don't sound like jokes. They don't sound like trolls chasing engagement. They sound worried, and when the internet collectively switches from laughing emojis to sirens and all caps demands for help, that's when you know the narrative has changed. Almost instantly, the clip mutates. It gets slowed down, zoomed in, cropped, reposted with dramatic music, reposted again with no sound at all. Every version makes it look worse, or at least more suspicious. Reaction channels jump in, claiming this is the most disturbing thing they've seen from Chrisean yet. Critics accuse her of putting her child online without considering the consequences. Supporters fire back, saying strangers are diagnosing a baby through a screen like it's a sport. The debate isn't just heated, it's radioactive. Then the most dangerous rumor enters the room. The claim that medical care was refused or delayed. No documents, no official statements. Just repeated whispers that spread like they're fact. That single idea turns discomfort into outrage. Suddenly, it's not just "this looks scary." It's "why wasn't a doctor called?" That question echoes everywhere, and no answer comes fast enough to stop it from growing legs. Silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. People start pulling receipts from the past. Old lives, old rants, old moments where Chrisean brushed off criticism with jokes or aggression. They stitch together a narrative that paints her as reckless, stubborn, unwilling to listen. Whether that narrative is fair or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because once the internet locks into a storyline, it rarely checks for nuance. To them, this isn't a complicated situation involving a real child. It's a scandal arc, and they're already casting roles. Some fans beg her to address it directly. Others tell her to log off and protect her child from public scrutiny. Meanwhile, critics claim she only responds when it benefits her brand, not when it requires accountability. Every move she makes, or doesn't make, is dissected like it's part of a criminal investigation. If she posts something unrelated, people call it deflection. If she goes quiet, people call it guilt. If she jokes, people call it heartless. There is no correct move once the mob decides you're on trial. What makes this situation even more volatile is Chrisean's history with chaos. Fair or not, she's built a public persona around unpredictability, explosive reactions, and viral controversy. That reputation now works against her. Viewers say this is what happens when you treat real life like reality TV. That eventually, the stakes stop being funny. They stop being memes. They start involving people who never asked to be part of the storyline. The internet also can't ignore the visual power of the clip itself. Even skeptics admit it looks unsettling. Not definitive, not conclusive, but unsettling enough to trigger alarm bells. And alarm bells don't need proof to be loud. They just need fear. Add in the fact that this involves a baby, and suddenly, logic takes a backseat to emotion. People don't want explanations. They want reassurance. And they want it immediately. As the hours pass, the outrage snowballs. Hashtags begin to trend. Phrases like "doctors urgently needed" start appearing in thumbnails and captions. The language escalates because escalation gets clicks. Some creators accuse others of exploiting a child's distress for views. Those same creators are accused of doing exactly that by covering it at all. It becomes a moral paradox where everyone claims concern, but everyone is also benefiting from the attention. Behind all of this noise is one uncomfortable truth. The clip exists. People saw it. And whether it was misunderstood or not, it triggered a reaction that Chrisean can't outrun. This isn't about her relationship drama, her beefs, or her online antics anymore. This is about trust. Trust that a parent is doing the right thing when the cameras aren't rolling. Trust that the internet doesn't actually know everything. And trust that a situation that looks scary on screen isn't as bad as it seems. But trust is fragile, especially when silence fills the gaps. As speculation grows, so does anger. People begin tagging authorities, demanding wellness checks, calling for intervention like they're summoning a plot twist. Others push back hard, saying this is dangerous behavior in itself, that public hysteria can cause real harm. The two sides talk past each other, screaming into the void, while the clip keeps circulating, gaining millions of views and zero clarity. By the time Chrisean's name dominates trending lists, the story has already outgrown her control. It's no longer one video. It's a symbol. A symbol of how fast concern turns into condemnation online. A symbol of how quickly motherhood becomes public property when fame is involved. And a symbol of what happens when the internet decides it knows better than the people actually living the situation. And that's where this chapter ends. With no official answers, no medical confirmations, no clean resolution. Just a clip, a storm of opinions, and a growing sense that this situation is far from over. Because once the internet smells blood, it doesn't stop watching. And the next move, or lack of one, could either calm the fire or turn this controversy into something far darker. By the time the second wave hits, the story has already evolved into something bigger, louder, and far messier than the original clip. This is the phase where outrage puts on makeup, memes sharpen their teeth, and celebrities suddenly discover the comment section like it's a brand new invention. The internet doesn't just react anymore. It performs. And once performance begins, logic is officially escorted out of the building. Reaction videos multiply like gremlins fed after midnight. Every creator claims they hesitated to post, but somehow still uploaded within the hour. Faces freeze mid-shock, dramatic pauses stretch longer than Netflix intros, and everyone suddenly has a personal connection to the situation. One influencer swears this triggered their maternal instincts. Another claims it reminds them of a cousin's friend's neighbor's baby. Empathy becomes currency, and outrage becomes the exchange rate. Then the memes arrive, because nothing says collective coping mechanism like humor wrapped around discomfort. Some people call it sick. Others call it inevitable. Screenshots of comments saying "call a doctor" get reposted like protest signs. Sarcastic captions appear, mocking the idea that the internet should mind its business when a child is involved. Someone compares the entire situation to a live-streamed horror movie where everyone yells at the screen but nobody can pause it. The comparison sticks, because it feels uncomfortably accurate. Celebrity commentary pours gasoline on everything. Not a list press conference statements, but vague subtweets, cryptic Instagram stories, and TikTok reactions that say everything without saying anything. One public figure posts a single sentence about protecting children and refuses to elaborate. Another likes a comment calling the situation disturbing, then pretends it never happened. Silence becomes strategy, and ambiguity becomes a weapon. Everyone wants to weigh in without taking responsibility for what they're implying. Chrisean supporters push back hard. They accuse the internet of turning motherhood into a spectator sport. They say this is what happens when people hate someone so much they're willing to project the worst possible scenario onto every moment of their life. They argue that babies cough, babies choke briefly, babies do things that look scary if you've never raised one. According to them, the real danger isn't the clip. It's millions of strangers convincing themselves they're witnesses to a crime. But critics aren't buying it. They argue this isn't about dislike or bias. They say concern doesn't need permission. They say when something looks wrong, you don't wait for confirmation before caring. And they bring up Chrisean's public track record like it's evidence in a trial. Past chaos, past defensiveness, past refusal to listen. To them, this clip doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a pattern they believe they've already seen. The internet loves patterns almost as much as it loves villains. And once it decides you fit a role, every action gets filtered through that lens. Chrisean posts something unrelated, and people accuse her of distraction. She doesn't post, and people accuse her of hiding. She laughs in another clip, and people accuse her of being careless. The rules change constantly, but the verdict never does. She's guilty of not behaving the way strangers think she should behave. Meanwhile, YouTube thumbnails escalate like they're competing for an award in moral panic. Words like emergency, disturbing, and save him dominate screens. Some creators genuinely sound shaken. Others sound like they're auditioning for a true crime documentary narrator role. Viewers can't always tell the difference, and honestly, neither can the algorithm. Engagement is engagement, and fear performs exceptionally well. The wildest twist comes when people start arguing about responsibility beyond the mother. Where is the family? Where are the professionals? Where is anyone with authority? Suddenly, armchair investigators are mapping out timelines, speculating about who was present and who should have intervened. The story shifts from one clip to a full-blown mystery, complete with imagined off-camera moments and hypothetical decisions. It's less about what happened and more about what people think should have happened. Pop culture comparisons flood in. Some say this feels like a Black Mirror episode nobody signed up for. Others compare it to reality TV moments that crossed an invisible line, the kind that later get labeled uncomfortable in retrospectives. Someone jokes that even the most chaotic celebrity parents usually draw the line somewhere, and that joke lands harder than intended. Laughter mixes with genuine fear, and the tone becomes impossible to pin down. Chrisean's name trends for days, not hours. That alone says everything. This isn't a fleeting scandal. It's a slow burn, the kind that keeps reigniting because nobody gets the closure they want. Every new post from her is dissected. Every absence is analyzed. Every unrelated headline somehow loops back to this moment. The internet refuses to let it go, partly because it's worried, partly because it's entertained, and partly because it doesn't know the difference anymore. What makes this phase so toxic is the illusion of righteousness. Everyone believes they're on the correct side. Concerned viewers think they're protecting a child. Defenders think they're protecting a family from harassment. Creators think they're informing the public. Critics think they're holding someone accountable. And in the middle of all of that is a real situation being flattened into content. The outrage starts to cannibalize itself. People accuse each other of exploiting trauma. Commenters fight in threads longer than the original clip itself. Some say covering it at all is unethical. Others say not covering it is worse. The moral line keeps moving, and nobody can agree where it actually is. All that's certain is that the story has grown teeth, and it's biting everyone who touches it. By the end of this chapter, one thing is painfully clear. This is no longer about a single moment on camera. It's about how fast the internet turns uncertainty into conviction, how quickly concern mutates into condemnation, and how fame ensures that even the most sensitive situations are never allowed to stay private. The clip may have sparked the fire, but the reaction turned it into an inferno, and as the noise gets louder, a new question begins to loom. Not whether the internet was right or wrong, but what happens next. Because reputations don't survive storms like this unchanged. And when the dust finally settles, someone always pays the price. By the time the dust pretends to settle, the damage is already baked in. This is the phase where everyone claims they're just waiting on the truth, but nobody actually stops talking. The outrage slows down, not because people are satisfied, but because exhaustion kicks in. The internet doesn't move on cleanly. It limps forward, dragging the scandal behind it like unfinished business. Chriseanrock's image takes a hit in a way that feels different from her past controversies. This isn't relationship chaos, beefs, or viral antics that can be laughed off with a shrug and a comeback post. This sticks. When children enter the narrative, public perception hardens fast. Fans who once defended her unconditionally start using softer language. They say things like, "I hope everything's okay," instead of "y'all always hating." That shift alone speaks volumes. Brands don't announce anything publicly, but silence from potential partnerships becomes noticeable. No sudden endorsements. No friendly reposts. No celebrity cousins rushing in to calm the storm. In the influencer economy, absence is a message. And right now, the message reads cautious, hesitant, distant. Nobody wants their name anywhere near a controversy involving a child, especially one that still feels unresolved. Critics feel validated, even without confirmation. That's the dangerous part. The internet doesn't need proof once it feels emotionally correct. People start saying things like, "Even if nothing was wrong, the way it looked was wrong." That sentence becomes the justification for everything. For the outrage, for the harassment, for the endless commentary. Perception replaces evidence, and perception wins every time online. Chrisean's every move continues to be watched, but now with a colder lens. If she posts joy, people call it tone deaf. If she posts faith, people accuse her of hiding behind it. If she posts nothing, people say she's avoiding accountability. There is no redemption arc available yet, because the internet hasn't decided what redemption would even look like. Apologies don't trend. Silence doesn't satisfy. Explanations get picked apart like they're legal documents. The relationships around her feel the pressure too. Family members, friends, and anyone visibly connected to her suddenly become side characters in a controversy they didn't audition for. Viewers start asking why nobody else stepped in. Why nobody else said something. Why nobody else protected the child. Responsibility spreads outward, thin and unfair, until everyone within arm's reach is suspect. What's wild is how fast this moment becomes a reference point. Future conversations about Chrisean will include this incident like it's a footnote that never fades. "Remember when" becomes the opening line to new debates. It doesn't matter what she does next. This clip will always be pulled back into the conversation, replayed as proof of concern, proof of irresponsibility, or proof of how brutal the internet can be. Sometimes all three at once. The audience starts to fracture in quieter ways. Some people unsubscribe without announcing it. Others stop commenting but keep watching, morbid curiosity replacing loyalty. A new group tunes in solely for the drama, detached from any emotional investment. That's the cruel irony of scandal. It repels and attracts at the same time, reshaping an audience into something unfamiliar. Meanwhile, creators who covered the story move on to the next headline, but the echoes remain. Comment sections under unrelated videos still bring it up. Hashtags resurface randomly. The internet never fully forgets. It just lowers the volume. And every time a similar story breaks elsewhere, this one gets dragged back into the light for comparison. The most unsettling realization comes when people start asking whether anything was actually learned. The internet felt powerful for a moment, convinced it was protecting someone vulnerable. But once the noise fades, There's no clear outcome, no resolution that satisfies everyone, just a lingering sense of discomfort and a lot of opinions that changed nothing tangible. This is where the story leaves a sour aftertaste. Because even if everything turns out fine, the process was brutal. And if it doesn't, people will say they saw it coming, using hindsight like a shield. Either way, the internet walks away convinced of its own importance, never questioning whether it crossed lines it can't uncross. Chriseanrock remains a public figure, but the spotlight feels harsher now, less playful, less forgiving. Fame doesn't disappear after moments like this. It mutates. It becomes surveillance. And every future move carries the weight of this incident, whether fair or not. As the scandal cools, curiosity replaces rage. People wonder what's happening off camera, whether changes were made, whether lessons were learned, whether the next headline will reopen the wound or finally close it. The uncertainty keeps viewers hovering, waiting for the next chapter. They hope never comes, but know probably will. And that's the uncomfortable truth at the end of this saga. The internet doesn't just consume stories. It shapes them, stretches them, and leaves permanent fingerprints behind. What started as a clip became a cultural moment, one that exposed how quickly concern turns into condemnation and how fame ensures nothing stays private, not even fear. And now here's where you come in, because this story doesn't end when the video cuts off. It ends when the conversation gets real. Everyone has opinions, screenshots, theories, and hot takes. But the comment section is where the truth gets messy, loud, and impossible to ignore. Was the internet genuinely concerned, or did it cross a line chasing outrage like it always does? Did this situation expose something serious, or did it prove how fast fear spreads when fame and children collide? Say it with your chest, because silence never fixed anything. Drop your thoughts below. Not the recycled talking points. Not the copy and paste rage. The real perspective. The uncomfortable one. The one you'd actually stand on if the cameras were off. Because whether you're defending, criticizing, or questioning everything, this conversation is happening with or without you. You might as well be part of it. If this story made you pause, rewind, or rethink how fast the internet jumps to conclusions, smash that like button like it owes you money. Likes don't just boost videos, they tell the algorithm this isn't another throwaway scandal. And if you're tired of headlines that vanish after 24 hours but scandals that never really die, hit subscribe. This channel doesn't drop fairy tales. It drops ripples. New stories break every week. New controversies surface overnight. And the next viral moment is already loading while everyone pretends they're done talking about this one. Stay locked in, because if it shakes the culture, questions authority, or exposes how fame really works, it lands right here first. The internet moves fast. The truth moves slower. And the fallout always hits hardest after every